Love watches? Why not take your passion to the next level by building one yourself? Building a watch will elevate your appreciation for timepieces. Perfect bezel alignment, blue steel hands, mind-blowing lume. With DIY Watch Club, you get to experience the craftsmanship firsthand and gain a whole new level of appreciation for your watches. You won't need to dismantle your favorite watches or spend thousands traveling to Switzerland for a workshop. DIY Watch Club brings the experience right to your doorstep with a step-by-step video instruction and their expertise in guiding over 20,000 first-time watchmakers. You can be confident that you'll have both an amazing experience and a stunning watch. Head over to DIYwatch.club and level up your watch game today.
Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazand. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. We have a great show for you today. We're joined by Jérôme and Gabriel from Serica, one of our favorite small brands, who are joining us after the release of a very ambitious new watch. We're going to hear all about it from them. I'm also joined by Kat Shouldes, our head of content. Kat, how's it going?
Great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, excellent.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, Jerome and Gabriel, great to see you. Welcome back to the podcast. I think we've had you on the podcast at least once before.
You had Jerome, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
And now both of us.
Yes, we're lucky to have you both finally on the podcast. This has been I feel like we've had to reschedule a bunch of times because I've been sick and there's been so much travel and
we've all been sick. Don't worry.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the time. There's a lot to talk about. Your brand is turning 5 years old or has just turned 5, so there's an anniversary to talk about. There's a new watch to talk about. I want to make sure everyone is properly introduced to the brand and everything you're working on. Before we do that, let's do a quick wrist check and get that out of the way. Kat, what are you wearing today?
I've got on the new watch that I just picked up, which is the white dial Speedmaster. So this has not left my wrist since Thanksgiving. But yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's a good one. Jerome and Gabriel, how about you guys? What are you
Big surprise.
Same watch today.
Guess what?
Very same watch today.
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah.
The new
both with the brass
new watch.
with the brass dial, exactly.
2 prototypes. It's still going to change a little bit, but we'll tell you more about that in a few minutes.
Oh, awesome.
Great. Looking forward to hearing
for
about
the better.
That.
Don't worry.
Great. Always for the better, we hope. I'm wearing my Citizen Siesta Small Seconds today. It's been a while since I've thrown it on, so just decided to wear that today.
And that's the blue dial, is that?
Yeah, it has like a blue kind of like teal dial. It's kind of like a bright color. It's snowing in New Hampshire right now. We got like a full kind of like blanket of snow overnight, which I'm not excited about. So maybe subconsciously I'm trying to conjure warmer feelings and more kind of like more seasonal vibes, but it's not going to work. We're in for a long winter, I fear. So
you've been trying for a while.
Yeah, always. Yeah, all you can do is try. So let's get right into it. You guys released the new Parade, the watch that you're wearing. We wrote about it on the website recently. This is a pretty ambitious watch for Serica, and I remember being on a call with you guys much earlier in the year, and you kind of like teased that you had something special coming in a shaped case later in the year that would be very different for the brand. And I thought, at that point, like this is going to be like pretty interesting because, you think of a certain type of watch, I think, when you think of Serica. And I'm always interested when brands try to kind of like expand beyond whatever their niche is. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of the concept behind the Parade and what it's all about for folks who might not be familiar with it?
Sure. You mind?
Yeah.
It was pretty surprising for many people, as you said, considering that we've been focusing on building tool watches for the past 5 years. And I remember that call back that we had together a while back, and it was way too early because even if we've been working on that watch for nearly 3 years, a year ago, it was still not there at all, and it still evolved a lot. in our mind is still evolved due to technical issues, to sometimes being a bit too ambitious for production. When you draw something, everything is possible. When you fantasize something, everything is possible. And then engineers step in and they tell you, listen, mate, this is not exactly going to happen the way you think it's going to happen because this and this and this. So that makes you rethink exactly how you can embody the story you want to tell. And the story we want to tell with the parade is a very different one than the one we've been telling with tool watches. As you know, probably everybody listening to us right now knows, a tool watch focuses on purpose-driven elements before anything else. And that's very much what makes a tool watch beautiful, because it's not trying to be beautiful. It's trying to be fit for duty. It's trying to fit a purpose without anything fancy in mind besides actually doing the job. And that's what's making them so special, to me at least. But with our first step into dressier territory, then the story is a different one entirely. You need to ask yourself, what kind of elegance do I want to embody? Mm-hmm. What is my shape? And then the considerations start with finesse, start with singularity, start with anything but functionality. But then at the end, once you have that little piece of art, as I like to call it, because that's what it is, then you still need to make it Serica. Because what we wanted to do was not just another dress watch, just another pretty little thing that looks amazing, but is fragile. And if it's fragile, if it's not waterproof, if it's not automatic, if it's not convenient, then most of the time, these watches, as pretty as it might be, they limit themselves in being worn twice or 3 times a year from the comfort of a living room, maybe Christmas and New Year. I know it's approaching, but that's not exactly what we wanted to do. Yeah. So to remain a true Serica watch, this watch needed to be convenient and fit for daily life. And by that, I mean, of course, automatic and truly waterproof. So that's what another technical issue that we had to face, another problem that we needed to solve. And as both of you know, when your case shape is not round, and when you're trying to save every 1/1000th of a millimeter, when you remove stainless steel, then the less waterproof it gets.
Right. Yeah.
And we wanted more waterproof. So we found a solution. It was not easy, but we did the sandwich case with all the 4 back screws, like just running all the way through the case and grabbing the bezel from the inside, and that makes for a stronger compression, and it did work. But that was we did not find that construction, that build approach in one night. It was like a few prototypes, was just redoing those, going back and forth with the engineers. I was like, okay, the engineers, they have a very different approach. The approach is not aesthetic at all. It's like, here is a solution. Yeah, but your solution doesn't suit me. Right. Because now it's a bulky piece of jewelry. It's not refined. It's not good enough. Yeah. So let's try to think outside the box. Let's see how they solved the problem back in the days. And when you start asking yourself the question, you quickly realize that very few people ask themselves this question, trying to make a dress watch truly waterproof. Yeah. And by that, I mean not wash your hand waterproof, not do the dishes waterproof, but like fall into the pool waterproof. That's what we wanted to do. Yeah. And I'm very happy that we actually managed to do it, especially that the prototype you had in hand was already pretty thin. But the prototype you had in hand was actually 8.75 millimeter thick. And we're going to drop it down to 8.3 millimeter thick.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And while retaining the automatic caliber, of course, while retaining the very same true water resistant to 10 ATM, to 10 bars. So yeah, we modified everything. We know it's possible. We should have the new bezels by next week. And we're very, very excited to see it. Basically, the rail, which is the distance, obviously, between the dial and the glass. On the prototype you've seen, it was nearly a millimeter thick, 0.9. and we're going to drop it down to 0.45. So split in two, basically. So it's going to make for a much, much flatter presence on the wrist. But still the little bit of a hidden tool watch at heart.
Yeah. We were actually, we had recorded a podcast earlier this week, and we were talking about the parade, actually, several new releases. And we were actually debating within ourselves about the thickness of the watch and the waterproofness. And Devin, I think, had mentioned that he would prefer a thinner piece. Maybe you too, Kazand, if you take away the water resistance. And I was like, no, you have to keep the. You cannot. Because to me, that's an everyday watch. When you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to think about it. And I personally have owned, I can't tell you how many countless watches that are so beautiful, and yet I don't ever wear them because they're not practical. And so I really like your philosophy here with making a watch that is beautiful, but also very practical for, an everyday wear piece that people can wear without even, thinking about, the water is going to get inside, or I have to be really careful with it.
In terms of sizing as well, it was about finding the right presence on the wrist as well. Something thin enough and small enough to be refined and elegant, but again, something substantial enough and thick enough to be trusted, and to be worn just as well with a leather jacket, with a white t-shirt, with a 3-piece suit, with a tuxedo, whatever. But I think
you guys are just very casually right now, and you're both wearing the watch, and it looks great. Like it doesn't. It's not like too
a suede jacket and a t-shirt done.
Yeah,
a suede jacket, and it works. It's not. Yeah. It does not feel out of place. I mean, you can obviously wear a tiny gold watch with a military shirt, but that's a statement. It's not the watch being versatile. It's someone being stylish enough to pull it off. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about
of course.
Obviously.
Goes without saying. I wanted to ask you specifically about the shape of the parade. You mentioned that you had kind of conceived of making something dressier, for a while, and that this was a years long process. Did you always kind of know it was going to be this sort of oval or stadium case shape, or did that evolve over time?
It evolved a bit with the shape around the stadium, but the stadium came quite quickly. It came quickly not because I saw a stadium and I had an epiphany. It came quickly because I wanted a shape that was singular enough, complex enough to be able to become our identity. Because to me, the shape of this watch is its identity, right? And I wanted something different. So I tried to think outside the box with what I haven't seen so far. And when you come in 2024, after 120, 150 years of wristwatch making, obviously you're not the first one to think about that issue. And if you think about all major classic shapes outside the circle, the rectangle, the square, the ellipse, the oval, the oblong, the octagon, the pentagon, then obviously you think about all those watches that we all know perfectly. The Tang, the Reverso, the Royal Oak, the Golden Ellipse, and so on. And the idea was to find something that would be uniquely our own. And the stadium, when I thought of it, I loved it because, to my knowledge, and I kept digging, I haven't seen this exact shape on a wristwatch before. And then it evolved, and with many intricate design details element, because I wanted something very, very fluid, very smooth in terms of lines and design. And the stadium with its straight lines on the side, if it's just a stadium, then it's too simple. It's too, I don't know. It's not too simple, but it's too rigid, I want structure, but I also want, a fluid kind of elegance.
Sure.
I don't want any sharp edge. I want to be able to touch the watch and not hurt myself. I have a very sensual approach to any objects, guitars as well, but watches is the same. If I touch it, I want to feel the curves. I want it to flow very, very gently. And so the design of the parade and this singular shape was all about this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a very cool shape. It's kind of like it's complex. Like once you start kind of like digging into it and looking at it very closely, like my favorite feature is kind of like the stepped kind of like case sides. It's not something that you notice right away. It kind of like registers initially as like, well, this is like an oval case, but it's not really. Like if you look at it closely, you see those like the mixing of soft edges and straight lines, and it works really well.
Thanks.
And it's a watch that needs to take time to appreciate. Sometimes if you don't fall in love quite instantly,
it's okay.
It's okay. I mean, the more you look at it, the more you wear it. And I was like listening to Jerome's speech that I've heard like 100 times, and I might know by heart now. And I was looking at my watch and the reflection that you have on the bezel and all the pieces of the watch entirely. It makes. I mean, it's so beautiful on the wrist that you fall in love every day when you wear it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember when I first saw it, it was sort of a two reaction, because I was like, oh, this is really different. Like my eyes got a little big, and I was like, oh, it's a lot to take in, especially not expecting it from your brand. But then as I held it and I picked it up and I was turning the watch around, and you just can appreciate all those little details. And I instantly, and I've said this already on the podcast, I fell in love with it. And I think it's such a unique design. And I'm curious that, you guys, your brand is such a popular brand within the watch community. And I'm curious how you approach creating all of your timepieces, really, that appeal both to your current core audience, but then also, the casual buyer that's not really a watch enthusiast too. How do you make sure to check those marks on both of those really categories?
Answer is quite simple.
We're not trying.
We're not trying. We are very pretentious. Okay, so we think first about ourselves.
Yeah.
We want to actually wear the watches, and if we feel like when we have the watch in hand, it deserves actually to be shown to anyone.
Yeah.
And I mean, we love them, and then we present them.
I know but it's a good question, and one that I got recently at a fair while we were traveling. And we never try to appeal to anyone. The idea is not to appeal to this market or another market or a segment of age or a watch nerd or someone who doesn't know anything about watches or a car enthusiast or a suit enthusiast. That's not the idea at all. The idea is to create an object of desire that makes us feel something when we hold it in hand, when we put it on the wrist. And recently I got asked, but how do you do, like before releasing a product, do you panel test it? Do you show it to enthusiasts and then you correct it? And very honestly, I was like, fuck no. Because if I had to do that, and then if I do not go with my gut feeling, and if I try to change it in order to appeal to someone, in order to please someone, and it doesn't work, then I'll be so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we see through the way we envisioned it, and if it doesn't work, of course, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
But at least we saw it through. We were authentic and genuine in what we wanted to offer in the first place,
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way you can have the chance to actually create something that has any value. It's not about, of course, Serica, like any other brand, like any other company, we do answer to economic realities that do apply to us the same way it applies to everybody else. If we do not sell watches, then the dream ends. Then we cannot keep creating. We cannot keep offering what it is we want to offer. But it cannot be the drive behind creativity.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. Then, especially as a brand, I think our role as a brand, and we all are here, watch enthusiasts. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We all are watch collectors. I love watches. I do not only love Serica watches. And it's a good thing because I'm fed by history, stories, beautiful designs from the past. And maybe that's what we try to integrate, to understand, and to replicate the same kind of emotion without trying to replicate any shape or form or idea or design elements.
Yeah.
But as a brand, if we are not here to be a force of proposition, if we do not have a vision, if we do not know how to embody that vision, then we have nothing to do on the brand side. Then we just go there and buy watches and we're happy. But the day you step on the other side of the fence and it's like, okay, I've got a story to tell. This is my story.
Yeah.
This is not the neighbor's story. This is not a story that was told 60 years ago. This is our story. That's a Serica story, you know?
Yep.
And we're very, very cautious about that.
Yeah.
Hence the cocky Frenchman approach, not to ask anyone.
No, it's great. I love it.
The idea of panel
we're not helping the reputation of French people around the world, especially not in America.
No, that's okay. You're just like the idea of panel testing or like focus grouping a watch like this is just like so antithetical to like the whole idea behind,
of course,
like independent watchmaking and microbrands, whatever you want to call it, but like this sector of the market that's driven by like pure creativity. I feel like once you start, getting the boardroom involved, so to speak, or getting, like a small slice of enthusiasts, involved in like the direction of the artistic design, like that's the recipe for the really boring watches probably. And I think we've probably we can probably all point to examples of that, in
100%. Yeah. And Zach, on that too. So Zach Weiss covered the parade a few weeks back on his Week in Watches segment. And I saw a lot of comments on YouTube where you had a lot of people that were fans of Serica and the brand. And they were saying, I love this watch. It's not for me, but I appreciate that Serica is doing this, right? There's an appreciation, even if it's not for them. It's like, you don't have to love everything. That's okay. It's like, you're not making a watch like you just said, for everybody. And so I'm glad to see that you do have those fans that are still appreciative of the route and the design, but are also like mature enough to say, this isn't for me, but I'm glad that they're trying new things, because no one wants a brand to become stale or just kind of repeat the same thing over and over again.
And this isn't for me just yet.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just like about to say that trying to please everyone doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you will never be able to please everyone. So at least if you can make something that actually gives you emotion, it's all right. Yeah. And then you can find some other people around here that will find this, like, feel the same emotion as you. But yeah, I mean,
it's funny. I was in the store a couple of days ago, and the store was full with one guy was from Miami, Florida. One guy was from Costa Rica, the other one from Colombia, Japanese, Korean. And we all sit down, and it was like late in the day. I mean, the shop usually closes at 7, and that day closed at 8, obviously. And the guy came in and was very much eager to buy 6190, the field watch. He knew he wanted to buy that watch. He arrived, and then he saw the parade, and it was like, oh, on paper, that's not my thing at all. Then I came in. I was just wearing like white jeans and a sweater, I think. And he did not picture that watch being worn like that, He pictured it like in a fancy way, in a dressier way. And we start talking. He tried the watch, blah, blah, blah. And he was telling exactly what you said. At the very beginning, I was like, okay, it's great. I can appreciate the effort in design and the guts those guys had in creating something new entirely. But it's not for me. And then after a few minutes, he put it on, and he was like, it's strange. Like on the paper, I would have never been drawn to that kind of design. And now that I see it, like, now I want to be this guy, because this watch embodies a different form of elegance that I want to be. And he bought the parade, not the 6190,
Interesting. Wow.
So it's really a timepiece. If he recognizes himself, hi, thanks for coming, and I had a great time talking to you. It's really a piece that deserves being met in the metal,
Yeah.
You need to experience it, and it still works with a dinner suit. Don't get me wrong. Like, we had the chance to attend a black tie event a couple of days ago, and obviously parade we did wear.
Yeah, I bet.
and it works beautifully. And I was seeing on the picture, like from far away, that shape, that dial combination, those details are so unique that even on a picture, when the watch really is no bigger than just a few, you know what it is. If you know the parade, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
very easy to spot and to recognize. Yeah. And I think that this unicity, this personality, this originality in 2024 in a watch that does not show any paved bezel or massive logo at 12 on the dial, it's not something that you come across every day.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, that's something to be really proud of too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying not to tell it too much, but I am.
I think it's interesting that you have this. I'm sure you can probably point to other anecdotes of people picking up the watch and realizing something about it that they didn't at first identify, seeing a photo of it or seeing the specs on paper or whatever. Do you think that that's like inherently more important to like experience a watch like this, a dressier piece in person? Because I feel like we have like everyone who's kind of like interested in watches has this context for sporty watches in all kinds of different scenarios. Like I'm thinking of we all can picture James Bond in a tux wearing a Submariner, but we don't have the same sort of like mental Rolodex of dressy watches being worn like casually, like the inverse of that, like James Bond scenario. So it seems to me that like picking up and experiencing a watch like this is even more important than like a typical sports watch. Do you guys agree?
It is, especially that there is no such reference point of a similar watch, and as you said very correctly, a dress watch is not really pictured in a more casual environment precisely because it's fragile and it's not waterproof. So you do not want to wear, you don't want to go on a holiday with a non-waterproof gold watch that doesn't take any shock absorption, for example. So considering that you can have both the shape, the finesse, the elegance, and the performance associated to a sports watch, it's not something that comes naturally to mind. So first of all, you need to picture yourself, oh, I actually can with this watch. And then, is it me? You need to, it's a lot to take in, as we said earlier. So, but the launch told us that it was not as dividing as we thought, for the first time, and we did not make any bet with the numbers of watches that we would sell on day one or week one, because we had no idea. Until now, we were very confident in our tool watch designs because it was singular, but in a soft way, because still within the frame of something well known, the dive watch, the field watch, the GMT. So we had to play by these rules, and those rules it's quite a frame, right? So it's still something, okay, you see it, you know what it is, you understand, you have a reference point, and then you see like it's not the same, why, and you understand it. For the dress watch, especially a fully automatic waterproof dress watch of a very unusual shape, then whoa, too much information. Why are you guys? What are you guys doing? Where are you going? Where are you taking me? I don't know. So I think it's important to understand what it is we offer with that watch, and then to take a moment to sit down and reflect on it, and then to get to integrate the design, if possible, obviously, to see the watch, because as we said, putting this one on the wrist, especially this one, makes all the difference. Yeah, it's a thin, it's an elegant, it's a shaped case, but it's a technical case. When you have it on your hand, it's actually much heavier, much denser than what one would expect from a dress watch. So yeah, it's a lot of information for sure.
Yeah. Can you walk us through the dial making process?
Sure. It's mostly design questions. The dial is something that I wanted very minimalistic. I did not want to go, like all my little toolkit that says broad arrow hands, that says reinventing the bezels, playing with materials, playing with colors in order to create singularity. All of a sudden, they do not apply anymore to the dress watch. So I needed to find something else. I really wanted something extremely minimalistic because I wanted only 2 hands, which I found very elegant, very relaxing, fit for leisure time. But neither did I want a pretty watch that doesn't tell time much. It's still like, I know I'm not starting with a purpose, but I'm not forgetting the purpose. So I still wanted indexes like as tiny as it could be to guide the eye when you want to tell the time in a split second. Especially, when at those times between 1 and 2, 4 and 5, 7 and 8, if I don't any index on the dial, it bothers me because it's not as intuitive. And I did not want to experience that when telling the time on that watch. But then with the finishing, we tried many different things for the dial. Matte, sandblasted, linear brushing, sunray brushing. And actually, after structuring the case with those straight lines, and I wanted to find something more organic on the dial. Find a kind of decoration that, again, is singular, is different. To sum it up, and it's easy to go for a vertical guilloche, but then all of a sudden you turn into Breguet or Daniel Roth, which is not the idea, which is, again, a design element that is too heavily associated with another brand. So it's not for me to use. Go for a horizontal guilloche or pattern, and then, of course, everybody's going to say, or everybody's going to think, me included, about Patek, about a certain 5711 Nautilus and everything. So it was not only about creating a singular shape, it was also about doing the job till the end and extending that singularity onto the dial. And that's how we started with a sunray finish. But then, a sunray finish is just like it's a radial brushing that goes from the center of the dial. But it's still straight lines. And I wanted more, something more organic, more curvy. So I replicated that same pattern with S curves and did a guilloche pattern with that. In order to smoothen the sunray finish. And it's very discreet because with once you have the crystal on it, especially in the black dial, which comes with an extra layer of enamel on top of the guilloche. I didn't want those grooves to be too deep, Otherwise, it's just like it's too loud, and then it attracts attention too much. And I did not want the attention to be caught only by the dial because it's so different. So it was, again, finding the right balance for the dial to be interesting, to comes with texture, to comes with depth, but not to take all the spotlight. Because the personality of this watch, to me, what we wanted to put out there and be the star of the show was really much the shape and the finishing of that case.
Yeah. The dial is, I find the dial to be very clever in the way that it's executed, because it initially it reads as this like purely artistic sort of style. It's, it has this, very unique, as you point out, S curve pattern. And I love a dial that's, purely artistic. Like I wear watches that don't have, hour markers. Sometimes I like the dial as a canvas sort of concept, but it is functional. Like you can tell the time precisely, within that design. So it kind of like, it really is kind of getting the best of both worlds, having a dial that is like visually striking, has some depth and is rewarding to kind of like examine and look at. But, to your point and to the philosophy of your brand, it's still functional, and works as a, kind of a daily watch and serves a purpose.
Actually, about the dial, I can answer a question that I've been asked many times. So if people are listening, maybe they're wondering, there is 42 S curves on the dial. And I got the question, why not 60? So you could actually tell the time more precisely with the minutes. Of course, and we did try, but there is two issues. And the main issues being like when you go with S shapes, guilloche pattern, and when your case is not circular, then you cannot have both the same distance between each groove and it cannot land on the same spot, on the periphery of the dial. It just mathematically, it's just not possible. And if I added too many grooves, then in production, it was creating a very blurry, basically towards the center. If you add too many grooves, then it's too close one to each other. And so it creates like a pattern that is nice, basically.
Yeah.
So I tried for many days, and then I realized that I was better at drawing than mathematics, and I was like, okay, it's just not possible. That's why I can't do it.
I didn't know there was going to be math on this exam. Is sort of my reaction to that.
I would have not passed.
Yeah, no, certainly not. I'm curious, how you guys are kind of like reacting to this. It seems like there's a sort of like a movement in our kind of, like affordable, enthusiast, independent watch space away from like pure tool watches and sports watches. It seems like this watch is like pretty well timed as like the pendulum kind of like swings back and forth between, sporty watches and dressier watches. Do you think that's something that's benefited Serica as this watch was launched? I feel like the market is like ready for a watch like this in a way that maybe they weren't like a year or two ago.
Yes, maybe, but I don't think I'm sure actually that we didn't do it on purpose, because we start thinking about making this watch 3 years ago. And,
really? Wow.
And believe me, 3 years ago, wearing a dress watch wasn't the same thing as today.
We were in the thick of sports watch mania 3 years ago for sure.
But we needed time, and we also had this agenda in mind that we wanted to come up with a new collection and a watch that stand out like this for the 50th anniversary of the brand. I don't know. It's like everything got aligned. I know Jerome is. He doesn't want me to push him, but I was like, yeah, maybe we should do something this year. And we succeeded and we did it. And the fact that actually nowadays dress watches are, let's say, more trendy than it used to be is great.
To me, it's also that our ambition as a brand has never been to be Serica, the tool watch brand. Mm-hmm. We started by designing, producing, manufacturing tool watches because it's what made both of us fell in love with watches in the first place, And so that's something we were very comfortable with. That's something I knew exactly where I wanted to go because I've seen so many. I tried on so many. I bought a few. But our ambition has never been to be just a tool watch brand, but more like to express and offer our vision on each typology of watch that we love. And dress watches, we do love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we realize also that we do not tend to wear them just as much as others, precisely for those issues of convenience and fragility,
Yeah.
And so with the Parade, what we are offering is exactly our dream dress watch in many ways, It's like it looks sharp, it's lightweight, it's thin, it slides under a cuff, it's unique, but it's tough, And combining all those things is just like not giving up on a dream.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
So we try to make it happen for sure.
That's amazing. And so I'm not as familiar with sort of like your origin story of Serica. Was there a gap or an opening in the market that you initially saw back in 2019 that led to the brand, or was this just something pure passion that you
pure
both?
Passion.
Yeah.
Pure passion, pure dream, and it's we never think about doing something at the right time or. We didn't think about coming up with Serica, especially in 2019, because we wanted to do something.
We got bored during COVID. No,
not at all. But I think that the timing was right because we made it right as well. Because we took time to to think about the first watch we were about to launch, and we didn't rush anything. And years after years, we wanted to build something true out of the passion that we had for watches, and build it not too quickly. Sorry. Once again, it takes time, and a watch should take time to develop. Should take time to. We don't want to rush into producing more and more watches every year, or presenting more and more collection every year, or having like many different references within one line. It doesn't make sense to us. And I don't know. I think it's a matter of believing in what we wanted to do, and also always keeping in mind that we were able to pretend ourselves to be a brand after many years. We know that it takes time to make a watch, but also to be able to build something that actually is a brand.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, building a watch and building a brand are two very different things. You know? And to do that, you need to have a very long-term vision. You need relevance between pieces. You need a common DNA, and you need to tell a similar, like, the backstory needs to be the same. You cannot send too many messages out there, like from one week to the next, because otherwise, how can you have the pretension to ask someone to have a clear vision of what it is you're offering? You know,
Sure.
Yeah,
if it's otherwise, it's what is a Serica watch? I don't know. It is this. No. Today, we're very happy to be able to say that the Serica watch is a single timepiece. It's fully automatic. It's chronometer certified. It's water resistance, and it's elegant.
Yeah.
Should it be a dive watch? Should it be a GMT watch? A dress watch, obviously. But all these watches, they tell that same story. I do not have to choose between being tough and having a proper instrument on the wrist and being refined and showing some kind of distinction, even with a professional dive watch or whatever, you know. Sure. And that, to us at least, is a combination of performance and elegance that make the watch magical like no other one. I mean, if we have to choose, then it's already half the dream is gone, you know?
Yeah. Has it ever been a struggle to sort of withhold putting out more timepieces, or did you both already had in the back of your heads that we were going to keep the collection simple, very curated from the get-go, basically?
No, it's with, I think both our vision are very much aligned on this.
Yeah.
And it's something that came very naturally. Again, it's not something that we strategically thought about with the board around the table. It's just like, I want to deliver a message, and this message, you know, we've been on the other side for a long time. We've been journalists as well. So we know perfectly how diluted can a message be, you know?
Yeah.
If there are too many messages, then you don't, at the end of the day, what do you remember? Nothing.
Yeah.
So the message needs to be clear with the story, with the ambition, with the collections as well. And if all of this makes sense, then you have the chance to build something that people understand. And if they don't, then you don't have a brand.
No, exactly. No, this is great. And I hope that any maybe potential entrepreneurs that are listening, this is a great episode to lead them to, because you guys are giving off some great advice in your journey and in the 5 years that you guys have been doing this. But I'm also curious, like, as you look into the next 5 years, like what are some things that you guys are looking forward to as you move into the next phase? Yeah.
Feel free to just tell us all the secret stuff. Like, totally fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So one.
So we don't have to invite you again for the next 5 years. Thank you very much.
I think we both want to keep the same spirit around the brand and around what we do, meaning that we don't want to rush anything, but we also need actually the brand to evolve. So it's a mix between not rushing, but also going forward like every day. In terms of product, we won't say anything.
Of course.
Because I don't know. Once again, we are obviously working on new things, but it takes a lot of time, and once we're not 100% sure, we won't say.
Yeah.
Unless Jerome wants to.
It's too soon.
It's too soon. Yeah.
And I think it's great when you surprise people. If people hear about a Serica dress watch for the past 3 years, or a Serica dress shaped watch with waterproof and blah blah blah, then 3 years later, if people wait for it for 3 years and it shows up and no one wants it anymore because it's not a surprise anymore,
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much teasing is just too much,
Yeah,
totally.
So, and if ever we talk about it and we cannot do it, as I told you, we took like many iterations, many prototypes, many nights of wondering if we could combine everything that we wanted to combine together. So yeah, I think it's great to work, as long as we work on it secretly, it belongs to us, The day we put it out there, a picture, we talk about it, we show the watch, and it does not belong to us anymore. And when we put it on the tray in front of a customer, in front of a friend, when we put it on the wrist, we want to make sure that it tells every single word of the story that we want to tell. And that takes time.
Yeah. I knew the parade or something like the parade was coming from that phone call earlier in the year, but I was still like surprised like the first time I saw it. And I remember you showing it to me in Wind Up and like seeing it not just in the metal for the first time, but seeing the watches. I hadn't even seen a photo of it at that point, and just being like very just like pleasantly surprised that like you guys really like pulled something like this off, like a genuinely kind of like different iteration of that Serica aesthetic and
it's hard to surprise us because we see so much every day, really right? It is, but I think you guys really nailed it, and I think both me and honestly the whole team that saw the watches has been pleasantly surprised. So that's quite the feat. So pat yourself on the back for sure.
but you know what I think also, like the more you talk about it and share the idea while it's in the making, then the more people are going to try to talk you out of it.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. At least we can go with all the craziness we want. And I was like, oh, no one told me. I didn't know.
No, don't listen to the noise. Exactly. I think it's important to like, just like follow the idea. Follow that like artistic vision that you have, and kind of like, we like ambitious watches. I think that's something that we've sort of all discovered, maybe like in the last year or so, it's really kind of like, gelled for a lot of us, as some we've seen a lot of new interesting stuff, but like there's something really rewarding about a brand, kind of swinging for the fences and trying something different. Again, even to your point, like even if it doesn't work, there's something satisfying about that, knowing that a brand is trying and that there's real thought.
So many watches did not work 50 years ago and are now icons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's okay if it doesn't work on day one, as long as you pull off something that embodies the vision and the ambition and the idea behind it, then it's fine. Then time will tell, time will tell.
And also I think it's a philosophy that we have, because we don't have anyone behind us telling us what to do in terms of investment, in terms of everything, and we want to keep it this way the more we can. So I think within the next 5 years, we're going to stay independent. We're going to stay focusing on what we want to do and trying to develop the brand the better, having like some people around the world being able to actually try the watches on. We don't know how yet, but we're gonna do it. And once again, step by step, trying to come up with surprising products, but also try to produce a bit more every year, to be able to have watches around and in stock, and we want to play with rules that we like, which is we control, but also if you want a Serica watch, you have to get it if it's not instantly, maybe in less than 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, that's great.
And to be honest, we didn't struggle, but the first, let's say, 3 years, we couldn't produce more. So we had waiting list, and we were like sometimes out of stock, and we didn't like it because we wanted people to be able to have those pieces on the wrist.
Yeah,
and
it always
now we're getting there.
Yeah, it always puzzles me when people, in the Instagram comments or on the forums or whatever, talk about how brands want these waiting lists to drive up hype. Brands want watches on people's wrists. Like you want people to.
It's part of the game, and I think I don't have any statistics, but I think that if you want people to appreciate what you do, if you see a Serica watch on someone else's wrist, you're gonna actually ask him what it is, and then the word of mouth kind of works. And we've been taking care of the boutique for many months and years before we had a team there. And a lot of people came in and saying that they actually discovered the brand through someone that had one.
Oh, cool.
So of course we want people to wear Sericas. It's important.
It's the best advertising, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
of course.
I know it's when just answering just back to your question about where do you see yourself in 5 years, and what Gabriel said about keeping that same drive, that same energy that we have right now is very important to us. And I was talking about that with a friend of mine. He's a car designer. He's kind of a superstar in France, worth like Ferrari and other big companies. And I was talking to him about like, okay, what made those cars so special in those years, in the golden age of car making and car design? Because right now I don't feel excited about any basic modern car, And he was like, yeah, smart ass. You want me to tell you? It's easy. You can make great watches because you're the only one making the call. And in those years, take those boys at Ferrari, there was like crazy guys, engineers, designers, driven by one guy, but all those a passion for cars. Their drive, their ambition was to create the best possible car. Those guys are just like a bunch of friends going crazy in the workshop and losing money. That's not ideal for us. That's not what I want to achieve. But I want to keep
I'll make sure that doesn't happen.
But it is very important to keep that spark, that ambition to create a real thing of beauty, to create desire, to create something that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
We can be proud of wearing, we can be proud of sharing, we can be proud of telling that story. Yeah. And if that drive changes because there is like big guns upstairs with the money telling us, you need to release a watch this year because we need to double because otherwise on paper it doesn't look good, then what's going to happen? A shit watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen,
Yeah. Independence is important.
It's finding a balance. Finding a balance, of course.
Yeah. It's, I mean, independence is really important. And I think like I said before with you, we can all kind of point to situations where, more cooks in the kitchen have not led to better
beautiful watches.
Yeah. It's, having like a singular artistic or design vision, is ultimately, kind of, you're not aided by a board, or by a focus.
No, and you're not aided by, I was chatting with a guy the other day as well. And the guy was all about, we need more transparency in the industry. We need lower prices in the industry. I was like, dude, I disagree. I mean, of course, it's, transparency is here. The internet does exist. We cannot go back. It's a thing. But a war on transparency, a war on cost of components, a price war to make the cheapest. Do that ever build a more beautiful watch? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, let's make a war on desirability. Is that a word? On emotion, magic, something that you put on your wrist and that's different. That makes me happy. That makes I get a little green. That puts a smile on my face. Yeah. That's a war I'm ready to fight. But that's something very, very healthy for the industry. transparency and the war on price or a war on whatever, or cutting on the so-called middleman retailers and stuff like that's BS, you know?
Yeah.
I need to stop cursing. Sorry, guys.
Definitely I have so much to say on that. That is definitely a topic for another podcast. I think that's really interesting. Man, I'd really love to hear your unfiltered views on that.
We can keep on talking once the recording is off.
Jerome, Gabriel, I think this has been a really fun conversation. Thank you so much for carving out some time for us to talk about the brand and especially the parade. It's a really special watch. I'm really glad to have had some time with it. And congratulations on the launch. It seems to be very well received. And
thank you so much.
Again, appreciate
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah,
good to see you.
Pleasure.
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Worn and Wound podcast. We appreciate it as always. We will be back with another new episode next week. Until then, take care.